Hello, sir. Sir, recently there have been some statements from, as you were saying, sir, from the U.S. policymakers saying that as things go with the Chinese, it looks like they're already intruding and violating the UNCLOS, especially with the 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. And people were just, people around the world were just quite surprised because for a long time, it seems that the United States have been very cautious in issuing statements. At one point, I think Secretary Hillary Clinton said that your interest in this particular region is more on freedom of navigation. And at some point, you will also inclined to say that more on the aspect of statement saying that the moves of China are quite preposterous, are quite aggressive. But it's only at this time that you issue quite a rigid, a solid, and more, as I should say, forceful and definite position, saying that they are already violating the rules. And seemingly, it appears that it somehow goes through the direction as to where the Philippines is going, especially in regard to the case it brought to us. So my question is, what did it take the U.S. government to be in that position or to issue that statement for long? And the second question would be, how do you think will this statement or position by the U.S. United States would affect the security in this part of the region? Thank you, sir.
Well, I'll try to answer the second question first. I hope it would improve the security in this part of the region. As we talked earlier, there's a, I guess I'll call it a community of nations here who have signed up. They can be all ASEAN, and those that are not ASEAN, but those that are within the United Nations Law of the Sea, who have, if you will, ratified and comply with that and are part of that tribunal, and those that are not. But my point is, if you're a responsible nation in this area, then you ought to be able to speak up, and we ought to look at all of us. So that's kind of where I hope it would go, and it would improve the security and move the dialogue less in a direction of, gee whiz, this is just surely going to end up in confrontation and combat, to, well, it doesn't have to be that way if we can use the process that we all kind of put in place at one time. So we should exhaust that. I think we stand by, it is about freedom of navigation. I think that's still the centerpiece of it. But I think the preponderance and the collection of activity by China has caused us to want to be more clear on where we stand on this. You know, the aid is the fishing ground kind of business. You know, you have to have a unilateral declaration of extended fishing grounds. Other multi-island claims out there that, if at best, are confusing and maybe at worst are conflicting the international norms. So the point would be, this is just not helpful to go about it that way. Again, these unilateral declarations, rather than using something such as an ASEAN forum to come forward and explain it, and then allow the community of nations, like I said, to discuss it.
Perhaps you can. Rear Admiral Suarez of the Naval Education and Training Command. You were very optimistic about the Western Pacific Naval Symposium meeting at Qingdao in April 2014. Would you take the lead in discussing the security issues in the West Philippine Sea with the other participants in this conference?
Well, I would. I don't think I have to, and I say it because in my conversations at two other fora, in Singapore in May and then in Jakarta in December, I asked the representatives there from this area, the ASEAN, what the agenda was, because the chief of the U.S. Navy doesn't usually attend the Western Pacific Naval Symposium. We allow our commander of the Pacific Fleet to attend on our behalf. I was specifically invited to this one by the chief of the Chinese Navy. He said, well, how about you coming out to Xinjiang for this? But my point would be, I asked, what's on the agenda? And I was told, well, we almost brought this thing to closure down in Kuala Lumpur whenever they hosted, I think it was Kuala Lumpur, the last Western Pacific Naval Symposium, this conduct for unexpected encounters. And so I said, so we have sat down and we challenged China, who had some issues, I guess, with some of the wording to, let's get your wording, let's get a working group together and try to bring this thing to closure. So I don't know if I'm optimistic as much as I'm saying we need to, I hope like you could say I'm deliberate on this, maybe focused, that if we can't do it then, just what the heck is it that we need to close this off? Every other Navy and nation, that's not bad when you talk about, right, everybody's got different angles on this.
Yes.
Seems to agree, except for one. What do we got to do to pull this over the goal line, as they say, and get a document or something that we would all agree, okay, this is the behavior when we meet here that we'll do, and we'll work from that. I think we just need to do an exhaustive approach in this manner and not just walk out there individually and say.
Thank you, sir, for your candid response.
Sir, as a junior officer, I'm curious, if you were in charge of our Navy, what would be the best advice you could give to our defense experts and decision makers on what actions must be taken in relation to the tensions of the West Philippine Sea?
I would work on maritime domain awareness. In other words, I would work to be sure that we had a clarity of what's going on out there in and around the West Philippine Sea in a consistent manner, and that you could, once you understand all that and all the interactions that are taking place, then you can sort of sort out where you go from here. So that would be number one, maritime domain awareness. And Milano and I talked about this today. What systems are available and how. Two, I would work very hard on interoperability, and that's an easy term, so I'll get to the point. Using unclassified systems, use the easy stuff first to share information on what we see out there. So whatever you see, you want, as I'm saying, make sure your headquarters understand that, both your headquarters here in Manila, but also out there at your fleet headquarters. Then be willing to share that with Vietnam, Malaysia, whomever, and work toward that. Three, be able to communicate with each other so that you're at your headquarters, you can pick up the phone and call the watch officer at Malaysian Navy headquarters, Vietnam Navy headquarters, Command of Pacific Fleet, 7th Fleet, on an unclassed line at first to say, let's talk about this. So once you connect that, you kind of have a force multiplier of assistance on that. It would be easy for me to say, well, go build a bunch of new ships or go buy a bunch of stuff, but these are the things that I'm talking to you now, I think are more readily available in the near term. But I think maritime domain awareness would be top. And then underpinning it all is training your people. So getting a solid baseline of professional officers and enlisted.
Sir, how does the U.S. Navy view China's claim, the so-called Nines line in the what they call the South China Sea, and what is your comment on their policy not to settle the dispute between the claimant countries or the host countries through multilateral approach, but instead they wanted bilateral approach?
Well, the bilateral approach is fine if it works, but I don't know, you can leave the South China Sea and you can go to the far north, as we call it, Norway and the Soviet Union and then Russia. We're trying bilaterally for years and years to satisfy a few islands, and that didn't work. Vietnam and I think it might be Cambodia. They were trying to follow. So bilaterally can work, but it hasn't. But using the law of the sea treaty enable those two examples for things to get done. So it's happened outside of this region So again, bilaterally can work if you can get two parties to agree to a common document or baseline for the conversation, but I think a third party is the way to go. And your first question, I actually forgot. What was the question? 9-dash line, yeah. I don't understand the foundation. It was almost like I woke up one day and somebody said, what is that? And I said, well, that's the 9-dash line. And I said, well, it's not island chain, it's not, what is it? And they said, well, it's the 9-dash line. And that's about all it is, it's the 9-dash line. So I think without understanding the foundation of it, we look at it and find that it is interesting, but it doesn't appear to have a relevant foundation that would describe geography, international agreement, international norm, international policy that we can base it on. So we just look at it with sort of interest right now.
Some sectors of Philippine society are concerned. I'm not sure about the word concern, if that's the correct word. They're concerned about the U.S. pivot and rebalancing in the Asia Pacific, specifically in Southeast Asia, as a possible prelude to the establishment of U.S. bases in the Philippines. Could you comment on this concern, if it's a valid concern?
There's no plan to put any Navy bases, actually any joint bases in the Philippines as part of the rebalance. The rebalance has several aspects: economic, diplomatic, environmental, energy development, trade, security. And the security happens to be, right now, what everybody's paying attention to. There are other parts of the rebalance. It's interagency, it's multi-spectrum, if you will, or multi-elemental, multi-area, whatever, however you want to categorize all that. But I would agree with you that I think the way we collectively talk about it could be better and more clear, so that if we don't get off in a tangent and said, well, okay, this is actually just some document and really there's an underlying plan. There is certainly pervasive. So we like the increasing in rotational, what's that, IR presence, increase in rotational presence. We think that makes sense, but by its very term, rotational, it doesn't involve rotational.
About the sudden change in the international relation approach of China from soft to hard approach, because China before everybody knows that it was using the soft approach diplomacy, but this time there is this sudden shift to use of hard approach, demonstrating its military power might. What is the meaning of the U.S. armed forces?
Historically, it doesn't work. That if you have a coalition, if you go, let's say, against the majority, or you go against the international norm, I keep using that term over and over again, but it's when I use it, I mean the consistent behavior and maybe even agreed to behavior of the community of nations that you're within, the group you're in, ASEAN. When one does that, and like I said, you go back statistically, not only this region but others, it doesn't work. It's you can isolate yourself, you can find yourself now suddenly declaring something but unable to back it up, and then there are multi-dimensions. So one may have a more powerful economy or military or diplomatic sense, if you will, or energy source, but unless you have it all, then you have to coexist and interrelate. And so I think using influence and using the established means of communication, of meeting, of working through things, has always been more effective by any country.
All right, that ends our open forum. Round of applause. The NDCP presidency for Momento for our guest of